Hello guys and welcome back to another experience video. Today I'm going to be covering finally the Sulfur Mines area. I know some of you guys requested me to do this area a lot of times in the past and I just kept on delaying it because I thought I just needed to have more attack power in order to actually be efficient here. And now when I finally got to test this area, I'm starting to have internet issues, and for the past week or so I kept on having internet issues with a lot of disconnects every single day, so at one point I just didn't want to return there to test the area again, because as I said before, I died a few times here and I even lost some gems. But at this point I really don't want to keep on delaying this video any further, so for today I prepared 3 different rotations and I'm only going to make the video with 3 rotations instead of covering more. So in the future, if there will be a need for more rotations, I may return here to test this area even further. But in my opinion, 3 rotations should be enough, considering that not many people actually grind here, or at least in my time I didn't really see people grinding here. Now to get started with the video, as always I will mention first that for these tests I'm trying to kill the monsters as fast as possible and I'm not looting anything from the ground manually. I'm doing this because in these tests I'm just trying to see what is the maximum potential of experience for each area. The other details will be displayed on the screen, so let's just move forward. First things first, for those who don't know yet where Sulfur Mines are, this screenshot is showing how you can get there from Valencia City. You might be under the impression that Sulfur Mines are in the desert, but in fact it is not. You can actually autopath there by right-clicking on one of those NPCs after you discover the area, and you can even take your horse and go there manually, because if you're going to autopath there, it will take you around that big loop that you see on the map. But if you're going to ride there manually, you can actually avoid that and go directly on a straight line. Once you get here, I would say that this is the actual entrance to the Sulfur Mines, but the first 2 rotations that I tested are inside the cave, so if you're following this video that is playing right now in the background, then this is how you can get from the NPC to the cave. Once you get inside the cave, I would say that you are pretty much set for grinding, because even though I tested 3 different rotations, I can tell you right now that in my opinion those inside the cave are the best ones, because they seem to have the best mob density. Now to start with the first rotation, this one basically begins as soon as you enter in the cave. And to tell you a few things about this cave, basically you cannot see your map when you are in the cave, and even though you cannot see the map and it does seem to be desert, in fact it isn't, because you can stay here for hours and you're not going to get any desert debuffs. So at this point, since I cannot provide you with a map of the rotation, I would suggest you look at the video and try to learn the rotation from that one. Now to start talking about the numbers, first off there is the experience. For all of these 3 rotations, I was grinding outside of the weekend event buff, so I had a total of 126% experience, which of course will be reduced back to 100%. On this first rotation, I grinded exactly 30 minutes, and in this time, if I reduce the experience back to 100%, I got a total of 0.008% experience per minute. This value of course represents the experience that I got at level 59, and as you probably know, I did my previous experience videos on my wizard as a level 58, so at the end of the video I'm just going to multiply all the values by 2, and that should give you guys an estimate of the experience that I could get if I were a level 58 wizard. For those of you who are actually checking the screenshots and might be wondering why this time there are 3 of them, that is because I was trying to open my inventory at the start and at the end to show what I got as loot in those 30 minutes. And I forgot to open my inventory, so the first screenshot is the starting point, the second one is the actual ending, and the third one is the ending with the opened inventory. So if you're interested in what drops I had, then you can just check those. I could of course just tell you that overall the drops are not really that great. One thing I can tell you about this place is that it is pretty similar to basilisks. Monsters have about the same HP as basilisks, or at least I think they have, because I'm killing them pretty slowly. Even with 227 attack power, I still need usually 2 to 3 skills to kill them, and I would say that I need about the same amount as basilisks, and the junk item that drops here is exactly 2k each, just like at the basilisks. In terms of experience, I didn't really test the basilisks yet, and I probably never will, because no one goes there to grind for experience, but here at Sulfur Mines, the experience is not exactly that great, as you can see from the result of this rotation. Even if I multiply this one by 2, it still is about 0.016%, which is pretty low compared to the other areas that I tested. I would say that the main difference between this area and the ones that I tested before is that here I cannot one-shot any monster. So on the other areas that I tested, like bandits or pirates, I could usually one-shot the small monsters. So the clearing speed was actually way faster. But there is one thing that I actually like about this place. If you want to grind with a friend or just with someone else, this place is actually great because monsters are not dying that fast and there are a lot of them, so you're not going to run out of monsters. If I were to compare this place with another one, I would say that it is pretty close to Crescent, because here you have a chance to get one of those Sicil Necklaces, while at Crescent you have a chance to get a Crescent Ring. So both of these areas have a chance to give you one of those rare items, and of course both of them are not really that profitable if you're not going to get one of those rare items. Anyway, moving on to the second rotation, this one, as I said, is again in the cave, and it is a little bit deeper in the cave, so you have to go past the first rotation, and you can just follow the video and you will see where this rotation begins, because I really don't know how to explain that. So I would say that this rotation is pretty much similar to the first one. So if by any reason the first rotation is taken by someone else, you can just go a little bit deeper in this cave and you will find the second rotation. In terms of experience, it is pretty much similar to the first one, but I got a little bit less just because maybe I grinded a little bit slower, or maybe because there is a little bit more space between groups, I don't know. On this rotation I grinded exactly 31 minutes, and again if I reduce the experience back to 100%, here I got 0.0075% experience, so as I said, it is just a little bit less. If I would have to pick between these two rotations, I would say that the first one is my favorite because it is shorter, so it is a little bit easier to remember, and also mobs seem to be a little bit more dense, so I don't have to run as much to kill them. Also, I want to mention that the first and second rotation are sped up because the normal rotation takes me around 5 to 5.5 minutes to complete once. So if you were to compare this one to, for example, bandits, there it takes me around 3 minutes per rotation cycle. So that's why I'm saying that if you want to grind here, it is pretty easy to grind with someone else, because the rotation takes almost twice as much to complete once, so the mobs will most likely be respawned when you're back to the beginning. At this point, after testing these two rotations, I was pretty sure that I don't need to test anymore, because this place is really unpopulated and these rotations are actually pretty good. So if you're going to come to grind here, I would suggest you just go in the cave and you try to find one of these two rotations empty. Just for the sake of finding more rotations, I decided to just go outside of this cave and test 2 more rotations, just to have a total of 4 rotations to be sure that I covered the best one. Of course, this didn't happen because of my internet, but in the end I did get 1 more rotation outside of the cave. So moving on to the third rotation, this one is outside the cave, and for this one we would need to go back to that first NPC where we arrived with the horse, and this video that is playing now in the background will guide you to that third rotation. Aside from the fact that this rotation is outside of the cave, there really isn't much else to say about it. I don't think there is anything special about this rotation, so I just tested it for experience, and you can have it just an example of a third rotation if you actually want to go outside of that cave. So on this rotation I grinded exactly 17 minutes. That's because, as I said, I had internet problems, so I just happened to disconnect while I was testing this rotation. The good news is that I was using my own stopwatch to time the rotation, so as soon as I disconnected, in about 5 or 10 seconds maximum, I just stopped my stopwatch, and when I relogged back in the game, I grinded to exactly 17 minutes, so I believe about 20 seconds more or so, and then I added another 10 seconds extra to make up for the time that I may have lost. The good news was that I actually didn't die when I disconnected, otherwise I probably would have left and never returned to test a third rotation. Anyway, in these 17 minutes, again, if I reduce the experience back to 100%, I got about 0.0075% experience per minute, so it is pretty much the same as the second rotation. To tell you guys something that's pretty interesting about this rotation, even though I said there is nothing special about it, there is one thing that makes it look a little bit better than the other two. I'm not sure if you noticed yet, but if you look at my skills, you'll notice that when I'm sitting on that purple ground, or whatever color it is, my skills get a little bit more saturated. I'm not sure if this was just my imagination, but whenever I was sitting on that purple or black or whatever type of ground it is, I was just getting a little bit more saturated colors on my AoEs. So the blue color on my water AoEs was actually looking a little bit better, and the fire skills were actually brighter, I suppose. It was just an interesting effect to notice. Anyway, I suppose I covered everything I wanted to do for today. So now on the left side of the screen I will have displayed the experience per hour as it was supposed to be for all of these 3 rotations, and on the right side will be the same value, but it will be multiplied by 2, so you can compare that one to my previous videos made from a level 58 perspective. With this all being said, to give you guys the conclusion, I would say that this place really isn't worth it to grind for pure experience. But if you want to come here to grind, then this place is pretty good because it is really unpopulated, so for the most part you're not going to find anyone here, so there isn't any chance to get contested. And also if you want to grind with someone else, then this place can support at least 2 people, if not even more, per each of these 3 rotations. So all of these 3 rotations can be done in a party. The bad points would be that this place is pretty far, so you would have to just go to Valencia and then go even further, and this place is not really worth it in terms of money. Unless you get really lucky to get one of those Sicil Necklaces, then you're pretty much not going to make that much money. About the money side, I might actually be wrong, because I didn't really grind here more than say 4 or 5 hours in total, so I don't really have that much experience with this area. But in my time spent here, I would say that the drops are not really making up for the distance you have to cover in order to get here in the first place. I personally like this place because it's really unpopulated, so I can just come here and be alone, and also the drops are not exactly that bad, so it is actually doable, I suppose. But it is pretty far, so chances are I'm not going to return here again. In my opinion, this place probably needs to have some elite monsters in order to make up for that low money income. Also, another thing that I like about this place is how it looks in general, because comparing these to bandits and cadres, it looks more interesting and it gives a fresh look to the game. And I guess now I'm finally done, so if there are any aspects of this topic that I missed, then please make sure to leave a comment below, because I always read those, and of course I want to know what else I missed about this that I should have covered. So thanks for watching the video, I hope it was helpful in some way, and I will see you guys next time.